As we move now to the next part of the program, we're going to hear more about the exciting and amazing things that are going on at RIT today. And we'll hear that through the voices of our very distinguished faculty, several of our faculty, who really embody that spirit of innovation and creativity that RIT is all about. So with that, they inspire our students. They constantly redefine what the art of the possible is, and we're very excited to hear from several of them today. So we'll start with our first one, Denis Cormier, who is from the K. Gleason College of Engineering.
Thank you very much. So, as was just mentioned, I'm Denis Cormier from KGCOE. I also direct a 3D printing research center here at RIT. So, an electric guitar, moon dust from NASA, the stick shifter on a race car, and a surgical instrument to repair leaking heart valves. Those are examples of some 3D printing projects I've worked on over the last 30 years. And what I thought I'd talk about this morning is some of the interesting things that we're doing right now. So, starting with the installation of the world's fastest 3D printer earlier this year in the lab. It's so fast that it can print over 10,000 of the drones, like the ones that you see Kareem holding here. This machine is made 5 miles down the road by our friends at Impossible Objects. Now, we're doing a lot of materials research with this machine where we're designing structures that have engineered porous behavior that makes the materials much stronger, stiffer, and lightweight. So that lightweight is really critical for aerospace companies that want airplanes and drones to be able to fly farther with the amount of fuel. Okay. Now, carbon fiber is a really amazing material, but a lot of real-world parts have to be made out of metals. This is the titanium stick shifter for a NASCAR race team that I was asked to print. The 3D printer that I made this on cost over $1 million, and one of those stick shifters took over 24 hours to print. So that's too slow, too expensive for most manufacturing needs. We wanted to find a better way. We took inspiration from inkjet print heads that have dozens of nozzles that are all jetting droplets at the same time, so parallel processing. We said, what if the ink was molten metal and we could 3D print metal parts with that kind of a process? That's what we're working on today. So this shows the start here. We're jetting molten aluminum droplets. This is a slow motion video, so in real time, there's 500 droplets coming out of that nozzle every single second. This is what it looks like standing in front of the machine when we're printing molten copper on the print bed of the 3D printer. And coincidentally, this machine is made by Xerox about 20 miles away from here. Now, this is really impressive, but what we really want is multiple nozzles. We want fast inkjet printing with molten metals. The head on this thing is about 4 inches in diameter. So if we want to have an array of them, it would be astronomically huge. So we went back to the drawing board and started designing our own print head. We started with the software that you see here. We figured out when and where to fire the droplets as we're moving around and 3D printing a shape like the RIT letters here. We took that as a starting point 12 months ago, and in the last 12 months, we're on our 3rd generation machine that you see Gabe working on here. And this is currently funded by a $3 million National Science Foundation award to take it to the next level. The contraption that you see on the right-hand side there, that's the print head that you see pistons, and those pistons vibrate up and down hundreds of times per second, and that's what pushes the molten metal out of the nozzle. Now, an inkjet printer is room temperature, right? The pistons that you see there are submerged in corrosive molten metal that can go over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. When you turn your kitchen oven up to broil, that's only 475 degrees C. So this is a really, really nasty environment. So a lot of material science and engineering is going into designing that assembly right there. And it's paying off. We just shot this video last week. We're jetting from all 8 nozzles at the same time. In real time, there's 650 metal droplets coming out of that nozzle at a time. That is not a gigantic print head. From the column of drops on the left to the column of drops on the right is about the width of my pointer finger, less than an inch. So we've been able to shrink that down to something that is the size of an inkjet print head and have all that metal firing at the same time. So how fast is it? A part that you see right here is about yay big. On today's state-of-the-art 3D printer, metal 3D printer, that takes about 35 hours to print. We've estimated, based on the video that you just saw in the last slide there, 35 minutes. So you're going from 35 hours to 35 minutes. We feel that this is going to change the economics for how a lot of metal parts are made in the future. So with that, I'll wrap things up. I'm the one who gets to tell you about these fun things. The folks that you see in the photograph there, the students, the research staff, the faculty, they're the ones who are making the magic happen in the lab every day, so thanks to them. And with that, I'll say thanks to you and turn it over.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeyhan Kartaltepe, and I'm an associate professor in the School of Physics and Astronomy. Today, I'm going to tell you about the voyage of discovery that has been made possible by the James Webb Space Telescope, or JWST for short, an amazing technological marvel that has only been made possible by the cooperation of thousands of people all over the world. JWST is a project that was 3 decades in the making. It was designed to use technology that did not yet exist in order to launch the very large 6.5-meter diameter mirror into space. There were many problems and delays along the way, including COVID at the last minute, but it finally launched on Christmas Day in 2021. The launch went flawlessly. In fact, it went so well and burned so little fuel that the remaining fuel is expected to last for about 20 years instead of the 5 to 10-year design requirement. Here, we see humanity's last view of JWST as it separates from the launch vehicle. Over the next 30 days, many things had to go perfectly, including the telescope unfolding and cooling down to about 7 Kelvin. After 6 months, JWST could begin its key mission: to find and investigate some of the first galaxies to have formed in the early universe, and then study how they evolved from then up until the present day. Every day since then has been a day of discovery and exploration. And on a personal note, a very busy and rewarding time for me. My role with JWST is as a user. I wasn't involved in the development or the launch, but I have followed the project very closely throughout my career. I was part of a team that was one of 13 awarded early observations in order to test out the telescope and put all of the instruments through their paces. We actually began this project during my first year here at RIT, planning the observations and making predictions for what we might expect to see. My role was to investigate the galaxy's shapes and structures for every galaxy you see in this animation here out into the very early universe. Our first paper actually focused on the galaxy you see here, which at the time was one of the most distant galaxies known. One of JWST's major early discoveries is that galaxies like this were much more common than anyone initially predicted. I'm also the lead investigator of Cosmos Webb, the largest program selected for the first 2 years of observations. I'm leading a team of about 100 people from nearly 40 institutions all over the world. The selection of this program so early on in JWST's mission was really the honor of a lifetime for me. What makes this program so different from the others is its vastness. In the image you see here, there are 800,000 galaxies spanning a broad range of cosmic history. Our team has now made all of this data available to the public for anybody to use, and we are continuously working to analyze them, and we probably will be for many years to come. I think we still have a lot of stories left to tell for these 800,000 galaxies. Projects like this would not be possible without collaboration. The Sears team worked together closely on the initial proposal, designing and redesigning the observations after every delay, processing the initial data once it came, and working together on the scientific papers. We held a collaboration meeting for the Cosmos team here at RIT in 2023, where colleagues from institutions all over the world traveled here to Rochester to work together on some of the first data we obtained. Finally, RIT undergraduates, graduate students, and postdocs have been deeply involved in projects using these data, leading their own papers, but also paving the way for future projects they will lead in the future, including with JWST, but also facilities that right now we're currently only dreaming about. For myself, I find myself to be incredibly lucky to have the opportunity to study the history of our universe and learn just a little bit about how our home galaxy, star, planet, and ultimately, all of us came to be. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ashique KhudaBukhsh from Golisano College of Computing and Information Sciences, and I'm an assistant professor. In my work on AI for good, I often find myself wearing two very different hats. One is the hat of a dreamer, seeing the possibilities of what technology can do. The other is the hat of a skeptic, questioning its limits, risks, and unintended consequences. As the dreamer, I imagine a world without wars, a world where hope rises above hate. 6 years ago, during the tense days of the 2019 India-Pakistan conflict, when two nuclear-armed neighbors stood on the edge of war, we began a project we called Hope Speech, teaching AI to detect peaceful, hostility-diffusing voices on the social web. We carried this vision forward into other moments of crisis, like COVID, when the challenge was to hear empathy over schadenfreude, compassion over cruelty. In short, I dream of an AI that could help us find the voices that make us more human. In the past 6 years, RIT has joined hands with experts from Macquarie University, Drexel University, Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Kharagpur, and Carnegie Mellon to broaden this vision of hope countering hate. And our work has even crossed borders, receiving positive attention from international media on both sides of the border. And today, the newest chapter of Hope Speech is being led by two brilliant RIT graduate students. Any guesses where they're from? India and Pakistan. As a skeptic, I ask harder questions about AI's limits, risks, and unintended consequences. I worry about the voices left out of the design process, especially those with little power to shape how AI evolves. In one of our recent studies, we designed a deceptively simple test we call the toxicity rabbit hole. This test has uncovered troubling cracks in the safety guardrails of many large language models. The underlying idea is very simple and straightforward. Ask the large language model to make a response just a little bit more problematic than its previous response. And what we see was chilling. Even if we start with something mildly positive, within just a few steps, models will spiral into some of the darkest ideas in society. In our experiments, models drifted into anti-Semitism, even suggesting Holocaust denial or advocating segregation. The word cloud behind me reveals something deeply unsettling: the actions these models proposed against disadvantaged groups. Among all those chilling actions, one word appeared more than any other: exterminate. These are not abstract risks. They are stark reminders that, left unchecked, AI can spread hate at a speed and scale no human ever could. But here is the good news. Our work on toxicity rabbit hole has already helped strengthen guardrails. Shortly after we shared our findings with the developers of the models, newer models became more resilient, harder to nudge into such dangerous territory. We are all in this together. My brilliant RIT student collaborators work alongside global experts to redefine what AI can do for good while staying vigilant about AI's risks and harms. Our findings have repeatedly reached a wide audience through the media, and tech leaders have listened, making AI safer and better. Here are some examples where our lab's research received global attention, and even in some of the cases, leading to platform-level changes and improvement. We started this conversation with hope. When we combine imagination with responsibility, hope with scrutiny, there is no limit to what we can achieve. Together at RIT, we can shape AI not just as a tool, but as a force that amplifies the best of humanity. Thank you.
Hello and good morning. I'm having so much fun here at RIT. I just want to put that out there. My name is Josh Owen. I am the director of the Vignelli Center for Design Studies, Vignelli Distinguished Professor of Design, and president of my own design office. I'm a designer and an educator, and I wanted to start just by showing you a short bit of design research that I undertook recently here within our own College of Art and Design. So as a designer, I'm often tasked with the complex test to make complexity simple. And we have a remarkable technology that's been developed in the College of Art and Design, a 3D printed glass technology. And as designers, often what we begin with is making observations about materials and technology. So this digital 3D printed glass was something that I studied, and watching the way that the glass unfolds, the way it's printed in an even line, inspired the idea to create a vessel as a test that would actually show its own history of the way in which it is printed, the way it's evolved, the way it's designed in the outcome. So this sort of complex technology manifests in a simple outcome. And here you can see the fruits of my labor. So design we can think of as a kind of recipe. It really is about bringing people, places, things together, understanding materials, technology, human behavior, human needs, but also human desire. And it's my job and my privilege to be able to decode this process and to essentially share and expand thinking. We extend ideas through essentially object lessons for students, and in those object lessons we have a remarkable storehouse, the Vignelli Center for Design Studies, which I oversee. Lella and Massimo Vignelli, who are known as icons of 20th and early 21st century design, gave us the visionary gift with their archives, just a short 750,000 objects that we use as teaching tools. And we activate these archival collections in imbuing them with our mission in education, preservation, and advocacy. And you can see how we make the complex simple. One of the ways in which we develop and pass on these lessons is a course I developed called Meta Project, where experiential research, learning from the archives and from the history of good design practices becomes a starting point for our students. We look at these masterful exemplars. If any of you have ever ridden the subway system in Manhattan, you've been in Vignelli land. All those graphics that took you on your journey were developed 50 years ago by Lela and Massimo. So the other thing we do with this course is bring in real clients. So AreaWare, one year, invited our students to explore materiality, and that materiality happened to be sustainably sourced wood, and the prompt was toy design. So you can get a sense of all the remarkable output from our students there, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about one of these projects in a minute. Every year with the Meta Project, we go to New York City as part of Design Week to put students, as I like to say, like bears in the salmon stream with the industry partners and professionals. Another year, Herman Miller called. Some of you may know, one of the largest furniture manufacturers in the world, who asked our students to investigate relationships in the workplace, and the output were some remarkable vehicles for productivity. Students, again, in Design Week are able to connect with industry folks and to be able to communicate what they've done. Another year, we had a little partnership with a tiny little group called Sesame Street, who asked us to investigate the urgency of play. And so students focused by their own accord on getting young people away from flat screens. And so there were some rather remarkable designs that did just that. Fringe benefit during Design Week was partying with Big Bird for all these students, which we enjoyed. So our students are published. We do a book every year to disseminate these projects. The projects are exhibited. Here you can see an early Meta project with Lela and Massimo in New York, and Wendell Castle, if anybody knew him. So the projects are also produced in some cases. So you saw earlier that toy, James Polius's Blockitecture, designed for the Meta Project course, became an ongoing commission outside of the course once he graduated. So AreaWare has commissioned some 20 other versions of it, and you can find them in museum shops all around the world, some of which have the RIT brand on the back. So our students learn from the past to design a better future. And in many ways, I think that embodies how we do design at RIT. I hope some of you will join us in New York in May for Design Week to see Meta Project 16 unfold. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Thomastine Sarchet-Maher, and I'm Assistant Dean for International Education at the National Technical Institute for the Deaf, NTID. Every day at NTID, we innovate how deaf and hard of hearing people gain access to quality education and meaningful employment. As the first and largest technical college for the deaf in the world, we strive to make a difference not only here in Rochester, but across the United States, and now in more than 15 countries. I am just one person representing all of the incredible international work that takes place daily. Over the last 20 years, the Center for International Education Outreach at NTID has worked with various partners to provide education, training, community development, and technical assistance around the globe. I'd like to take a minute to share a few stories with you about the impact that we are making in different countries. Oftentimes, we work in countries where deaf people don't have access to their own native sign language. To address this issue, we've designed the World Around You, or WAY project. Our faculty and staff have created an open source platform that promotes early literacy and provides quality educational materials to teach deaf children. In the Philippines, we partner with various companies and businesses to recruit and hire qualified deaf and hard of hearing candidates. and we also work with these organizations to help retain them within their companies. In many countries, going to higher education is not possible. In China, we partnered with the Tianjin University of Technology to establish the Technical College for the Deaf. Within this college, deaf and hard of hearing students can pursue their bachelor's degrees in computer science, art, and design. Prior to our partnership, students had no options for higher education. Now there are 3. This is what progress looks like. However, in many countries, it's still the case that there are 0 opportunities to pursue higher education. Through our international network of partners, we recruit deaf and hard of hearing students to pursue their higher education here in Rochester. I'd like to share one example of one of these students. This is Jeanne d'Arc Ntigulirwa from Rwanda. When I first met her, she told me she had no support services in her school. She was the only deaf student, and she had to figure out everything on her own. She had completed her education and wanted to pursue her master's degree. However, for years, she had struggled to apply. I told her that I couldn't promise her that she would be admitted, but I would ensure that her materials got in the right hands. Today, I'm very proud to say that Jeanne d'Arc has received her master's degree, and she is the first deaf Rwandan woman in her whole country to do so. And if you're wondering how this master's degree has changed Jeanne d'Arc's life, well, you can walk down the quarter mile and ask her, because she's one of my colleagues in the College of NTID. At NTID, we change the trajectory of people's lives. For many deaf people, coming to study with us or study with our partners is their first opportunity to pursue higher education, and they are the first ones to get their degrees in their country. We have partners who now have first-of-their-kind programs in teacher education and sign language interpretation. We even have partners who've designed their campuses to look just like RIT's Brick City. But that's not why we do all this. We really want to change the whole ecosystem for deaf people, not just here, but everywhere. And no university can say that they do this kind of work, especially on this scale. No one but RIT, NTID. Thank you.